Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. A strong immune system has never been more important than right now. As your body's first line of defense, the immune system needs supplies to do battle. In today's show, Bob and Rollie talk about what you can do to boost your body's immune system and protect yourself from pathogens and disease. Learn what you should avoid to keep your immune system in tip-top shape and what simple steps you can take to boost your body's immune system to the next level. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
Hello everyone, welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I am Bob Gilpatrick. I'm here with Rollie Culp. Rollie, nice hat.
How's it
doing
going
today?
Looking good, this is the hat I actually wore to my wedding, so I'm reusing it.
All right, multi-purpose hat.
Multi-purpose hat. Anyway.
So today we're going to talk about the immune system and how to boost your immune system.
Right.
Really important, especially this day and age. This is 2021. Right, this show is airing in August, end of August, beginning of September 2021.
Right.
And there's still a lot in the environment, a lot in the news about the importance of a very strong immune system.
Right. Yeah, there's still a lot of people getting sick. And that means we need to tell people how to boost their defenses against these things. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And we're going to start with the first thing on nutrition, because there are studies out there that say that every nutrient known to man is needed for the health of your immune system.
Sure. And
we know that a few of them that people think about and hear about in the news is vitamin D, as they say is the most important of all of the nutrients that your immune system needs. And you also need the ACE vitamins, A, C, and E.
Right, vitamins A, C, and E.
Right, and so all of those are antioxidants. They help keep down your inflammation.
Right.
Right, and also they say that the active ingredient in garlic, right, which is called allicin, is also very good at boosting your immune system.
Nice.
It's antimicrobial.
All the Italians would be looking good then.
Yeah, exactly.
Slice it real thin. You slice the garlic real thin.
That's it. And the other thing is, we know that probiotics are really important for your immune system.
Absolutely.
You have to have an abundance of good bacteria in order to interact with the other parts of your immune system for signaling and support. Right? And also, there's a really effective compound we also know of called lignans. There's 27 different known lignans, which are classified as polyphenols. They are chemical compounds that are in plants.
Yes.
Right? And you can now take them in because we know all 27 lignans are in the wax that's on the outside of the flaxseed.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. Like you hear people, they eat flax seeds, they use flaxseed oil, and that's all really good. But the gold is on the outside. The where all the most abundant nutrients and phytonutrients are is on that wax. So one of the things that we did, and we found lignans, which is really just the outside coating that's been tumbled off of the seeds, and it's like a powder form.
The lignans are right in that wax.
Right.
And they're inside the seed too, but not in high concentration.
Right, not as much as on the outside.
So if you want to get a concentrated dose of lignans, you got to tumble with a machine.
Right, and that takes a long time. It takes not only a long time, but a lot of flax seeds, because imagine you're just making a powder out of basically the outside of it, and you don't want to break them down to the point where they're broken, so it's a nice gentle tumbling process. So it takes a while, and it takes a lot of seeds.
Yeah, and then once it's done, the nutrients are stabilized, and then the powder is ground. It's ground into a powder, the wax, and then it's dissolvable in water. So you can actually put the powder in a glass, add some water, stir it up, and drink it. And those lignans interact with your bacteria in your gut.
Right. Also. You can add it a little bit to food, actually. You can cook a lot with lignans, to be honest with you. Yep. You can put it on top of salads. You can add it to yogurt, things like that. And then that way, instead of just drinking it down, you have other options. But one of the things that most people, like you said, kind of don't really realize is how much of an antioxidant that's in them. There's a really strong antioxidant in lignans. It's SDG for short. It's also known as psychosolacerian diglucoside.
There you go.
It's a mouthful, and I practiced it.
That's good, Rollie. And that, helps keep down the inflammation in your body in general.
Yes.
And that's a very important thing to remember is inflammation that's generalized in your body puts you at higher risk for an issue that's related to your immune system. So keeping inflammation down all throughout your body, including in your lungs, is a very key aspect of boosting your immune system. So things like lignans and also things like the ACE vitamins, right? And other compounds that reduce inflammation, which we know are trimethylglycine and superoxide dismutase, etc.
Right.
Those are compounds that are in the nutrition products, the Boomers Forever Young's nutrition products. And when you use them, your inflammation comes way down. Probably the single best thing you can do for your immune system is to have low inflammation, right? Because when you have an invasion of a pathogen, right, you end up creating inflammation in the response to that pathogen.
Right.
And so now if you started out with very high inflammation and now your inflammation goes up even higher, these are the people that are at the highest risk of having severe negative outcomes.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about on other podcasts how much inflammation creates future disease because the fact that you're overloading your system, you can't handle the amount of inflammation. And so if you're at a high inflammation level, you get injured or you get an infection and you have to fight that off, you're just duplicating that amount of inflammation, and it makes it harder for your body to keep up. And what do we always say? More inflammation equals faster aging, right?
Faster aging and more likelihood of getting adult onset diseases,
chronic diseases, right?
Like cancer. And this is the other thing is that if you have a healthy immune system, you also are reducing your chances of getting other diseases like cancer, right? And like Parkinson's disease,
right,
multiple sclerosis, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And I read this one study, Rollie, where they were looking at people's level of hydration.
Okay.
And they were also looking at people at varying levels of nutrition. And they actually said as important as nutrition is, water is even more important.
Really?
And that the people with the lowest levels of hydration in the groups, the study groups, were the ones that were most immune compromised.
Wow, okay.
Even worse than people that had malnutrition.
Really?
Yeah. And so this is a very important thing to know, especially during this time, 2021, going forward, and during flu season, et cetera. If you're going to be around people, get super hydrated, right, to help boost your immune system.
Yeah, they say you're supposed to drink, I think, half your body weight in ounces a day. Now that don't quote me on that, but you're supposed to drink. That's a lot of water. So make sure you're drinking water. I have to admit, I'm not very good at drinking water, and
let's get some right after. I'm starting to feel thirsty now, knowing my immune system is getting compromised by not drinking enough water. Let's go.
I think you're right, man. That's good from water.
Rollie, here's another thing. Toxins, we know that overload of toxins compromises immunity, especially mold, right?
Yes.
If you get exposed to black mold and it's in your body, like a lot of people have, right? Then you're going to have a compromised immune system. So we know that using one particular product that we refer to as gladiator barley can get that mold out of your body.
Absolutely.
And reduce that load. It happened for me when I first started taking it 10 years ago. I had an experience where black mold was coming out through my skin.
Yeah.
And it was really good. You wash it off each day, and after about 6 weeks, it stopped coming out.
Yeah, you said it was really good, but you did say at first it was kind of weird. It kind of freaked you out at first.
We didn't know what
is this?
it was. And so we called the scientist that had given us the barley seeds. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's the black mold coming out of your body. Don't wear any white shirts. You'll never get that mold out of those white shirts."
He actually said, if you see the black mold, you know it's working. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's good.
Yeah. So the other things, other toxins, cleaning products that are we'll do a whole show on toxins of cleaning products and how to replace them with good ones. We'll do that.
Right, but that's something a lot of people don't think of because, I mean, you got to clean your house, so you're spraying stuff and you're spraying chemicals, but then you realize you go lay in the same bathtub, you just put the scrub and bubbles on.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just rinsing it with water, so it's not like it's all gone.
Right.
So when you come into that residual toxicity from household cleaning products, a lot of people don't realize that. Wow, okay, you'll see there's actually a clean cleaning trend of people using all natural household products. Using stuff that doesn't have any like paraben free and everything like that. It's very important because it also can bring on allergies because it's airborne in your house and things like that.
Yeah, it's really bad for kids.
Yes,
right?
It's very bad.
So the other thing is, we've talked about this before, overcooked foods.
Oh, yeah.
Foods cooked at over 300 degrees on dry heat,
right.
Extremely toxic, and leaving your shoes in the house because you're picking up toxins from the grass, from the sidewalk, from the road, leaving them inside. They're off-gassing those toxins at nighttime. Now between that, the mold, the cleaning products, now your body has a toxic overload. So the first thing is you want to avoid those toxins, and secondly, extract them from your body through things you can ingest, such as superoxide dismutase, zeolite, etc.
Yeah, and a couple of the things that people, when they start using some of the products that we're talking about that have the SOD, like our barley, we talked about Gladiator barley, that has a lot of SOD in it, and you have to start slowly. You can't go full tilt because if you do, you have the ability to actually damage things by overloading your body with toxins. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about not overloading your body. So when you do a detox, water, right?
And slowly.
Right? And if
slowly and gradually increase over time.
Right. Follow the instructions, whether it's our stuff or somebody else's detox stuff. You want to follow those instructions. They're not there just to make you feel like you got to read every time you go to take it. They're there because if you do it wrong, you could actually injure yourself. That's how important it is.
Very important. More is not better.
Right. That's a good phrase.
So, Rollie, the other thing that we know from studies is that sleep is critically important for your immune system.
Yes.
You do detoxification during the nighttime, and you also do a lot of fighting infections during the nighttime. So, the doctor will tell you, drink plenty of water and get plenty of sleep, right? And when you wake up in the morning, it's like, yeah, I feel better this morning, right? Because while you were asleep, you were detoxing, your immune system was catching up, etc.
Yeah, and if you're not sleeping well, then you're probably not repairing well. So we did a show about habits that you can use right before you go to bed, so that way you can actually sleep better. Check that one out because it does give you some really good, easy-to-use stuff.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, Rollie, is the whole issue of circulation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the better your circulation of your blood and your lymph, okay, the healthier your immune system is going to be. So you have white blood cells that are in your blood and in your lymph fluid and there's numerous different types of them, and that's what is doing the attacking of any invading pathogens, like a virus, a bacteria, etc. And so we need to make sure we have as good a circulation as possible. We've done another whole show just on circulation.
Yes, and we did one on the lymphatic system called A Look at the Lymphatic System.
Right, and so after watching this episode here on boosting the immune system, go back and look at circulation and lymph as well. We don't have time to go into all of it today, but your lymph system has as much fluid as your blood.
Exactly.
Right? And so you need to pay attention to both. They interchange and interface with each other and support each other.
Yeah, in the podcast we did a look at the lymphatic system. We go into detail about how they get blocked and what you need to do to make sure they're flowing well. So definitely check that out after this one. It'll be helpful to you, especially if you're experiencing bad circulation in general, then your lymph isn't working well. So we give you ways to boost that.
And related to circulation is also the whole issue of exercise.
Of course. Right? You got to move, got to get it moving. It doesn't move if you don't.
Yeah, yeah. So as you move, your circulation is better. The white blood cells can reach the far reaches of your
Tips
body.
of your fingers and your toes, because you got to
Yep.
move that blood through,
Yep. And then another one which people probably don't pay enough attention to is the whole issue of stress.
Oh, God. No, I tell you, most people, I was reading something, they said many people take classes to learn how to deal with more stress. And when you think about that, so many people have so much stress already. To take a class that allows you to handle more stress sounds like a good thing. But when you realize how much damage stress can do to your health, it's almost like I need a class that tells me how to get away from stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you have to avoid situations that cause stress as much as you can, but there are situations everywhere, and equally important is your whole belief structure, right? We talked about people who are awfulizers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Don't be an awfulizer.
It's like, oh, that happened. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that awful? Right?
Right.
And then also the danger of spending too much time with people that are watching the same type of news as you, or have a similar set of beliefs as you do, and maybe have the same illness or disability that you do, right? Because there's a danger of, instead of having very healthy relationships, which we know is good for your immune system,
Yes.
you can become what they call wound mates. Carolyn Mace refers to her to people who come together and bond over a common wound as wound mates, right? Oh, you've got that, I've got that too, and we can be best friends and talk about it all the time.
Right. And that sounds good in theory, but then you're dwelling on that thing.
Right.
And then you're creating stress and anxiety in a group situation, which I would think double that amount of stress and the feeling of negativity around that particular situation. So a lot of it would have to do with perspective, making sure that you get not only you have your perspective, but listen and know people who have and can help you see a different perspective, because the result of stress, like we've talked on many things, is cortisol. Right.
Yeah, and the cortisol is going to interfere. We know this from a study that was done with medical students. There was a study that tested their cortisol levels and tested their T cell levels and also their T cell activity. And they tested it 1 month prior to a final exam day.
Ooh.
And then they tested it on final exam day.
Oh, wow, that's stressful.
And huge difference
I could
in
imagine.
the number of T cells circulating and the ones that were circulating, how active they were, how much energy they had and were producing. Right? And so this is just one study that was done where they actually measured the volume of immune cells present based on stress.
Okay.
And we know also that cortisol, it creates a blockage of healthy cytokines that reduce inflammation.
Oh, man.
So you have cytokines that can create inflammation.
Right, we've talked
some
about
that
them.
can reduce them. The ones that reduce them are good, but cortisol interferes with that and blocks them, so your inflammation goes up when you're under stress.
So not only is the stress hormone, the cortisol, that's implementing and making it stressful, but then it blocks natural things that our body creates to reduce the stress. But that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. So other things that contribute to stress and affective disorders that are going to affect your immune system are people who experience loneliness, people who live
Isolation,
alone, isolated, people with depression and anxiety, and people who do not have positive relationships. If people have only relationships where they're always at odds and fighting, there's a lot of research that shows that reduces the effectiveness of your immune system.
Yeah.
Okay?
And they need some nonviolent communication.
Absolutely. So
another show we did.
other
Check it out.
podcasts, right? And nonviolent communication, great for relationships. We also have podcasts on anxiety and depression that
Absolutely.
people can see.
Managing stress and anxiety, especially in these trying times. That's one of them,
Exactly.
too.
And the last thing related to this is fear.
Right.
So people who are living in fear all the time, which is more common now that I believe than ever before in the history of my life since 1956, is people are living in fear. And a lot of it is from fear mongering of certain groups.
Well, the social media, people putting out, whether it's true or false, and you choose to believe it or not, there's stuff out there that even if you don't believe it, it's scary.
Right.
And if you do believe it, it's extra scary.
Right.
You
and
know?
So we need to be careful not to be living in fear constantly,
Right.
but to direct our mind into gratitude,
Right.
And into, positive things, and catch ourselves living in fear and say no to fear, and make a shift
To the gratefulness.
Right, make a shift to gratefulness.
For real. That we've talked about that on other shows too. Seriously, the idea of being grateful, allowing you to rewire the heart to brain connection.
Yeah,
exactly. that idea that I don't have to always be afraid, and not only do I not have to be afraid, but I can actually live and be happy because I have the ability to delineate fear from happiness.
Yeah, and that podcast we did was refers to inner balance.
Right, that's the inner balance one. It'll teach you a lot.
Great for relationships, fear, and et cetera,
anxiety in general.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I had in mind in regard to this episode is the whole issue of energy. Right, so energy is very vital because all of your immune system needs energy available for those cells to perform their functions properly.
Sure.
Right? And including, white blood cells, which are doing most of the work of your immune system, they actually have their own mitochondria, which produces energy. Okay? And so in order to produce energy, we have to have all the substrates that are involved in the Krebs cycle, which is how you make your energy molecule, adenosine triphosphate,
ATP.
Right? And so in those compounds are vitamins, again, like we had mentioned, and peptides, and also coenzyme Q10 is vital for the production of energy. And so we want to know that we have comprehensive nutrition that is going to allow all of our cells to make an abundant amount of energy. And that when they say an active cell, all right, an active immune cell, it's a cell that's making a lot of energy. And so you want to have really great comprehensive nutrition, and you want to keep that inflammation down, because inflammation will damage your mitochondria, which is the organelle that's making the energy. And we know, for example, if people's iron is too high, then that excess iron is interacting with a waste product from the creation of energy. And it's creating a very volatile free radical that's damaging the wall of the mitochondria and making it ineffective, and ultimately will turn that cell into a non-functioning cell, and perhaps even a cancer cell.
Right. What we talked a lot about when you have dysfunctional mitochondria on a show we did before, specifically about the mitochondria and how important it is for the Krebs cycle, that when those things get damaged, when your mitochondria ceases to work, then those become actual hosts for other diseases to come in and take over. Right? And the way that I look at it, so your immune system, which is what we're talking about here, that's like your body's first line of defense, right? And it's like having a military, but not giving them any supplies, right? So if you don't have comprehensive nutrition, then your immune system / body's army is not going to be able to perform. You're going to be sitting out there with no shoes and no boots in the middle of the winter, and you're going to be hoping to yourself that you could just make it through the next night, right?
And a good example is your skin is part of your immune system. It's a barrier, right? It's part of the barrier system, or the innate system. And your skin actually makes a type of bacteria that's antimicrobial.
Yes, you were telling me about this right before we talked.
It makes a protein.
That's
a
protein.
A protein that's antimicrobial, and that protein protects you. But guess what? In order to make that protein, you need to have an adequate amount of amino acids and metabolic enzymes to make those proteins
Right.
that are protecting you.
And that's you're not going to give your military what it needs. It can't make these proteins. It can't do what it needs to protect you if you don't give it the foundational, comprehensive nutrition that everybody needs.
Exactly. So, Rollie, just the last thing is some tests that people
Yes, that's very
need
important.
to do, right? One is make sure you know your iron level and that it's not too high. You don't want it to be up toward the high end of the range. You want it to be down just below the middle of the range.
Right in the middle of the pack.
You don't want to be too low or too high. And you also want to make sure, absolutely, that you check your vitamin D level.
Of course. Vitamin D is actually one of the best markers for overall optimal health.
Right.
Too.
Yes.
So
that and as part of that, your immune system, and then the other test you want to get is for your C-reactive protein.
Right.
CRP is your marker for how much inflammation you have in your body.
Yeah, and that's pretty high on people who have chronic diseases like diabetes and things like that, because they've got so much inflammation built up that they can't actually handle. So in that case, it's when you want to think about getting a supplement that has really good antioxidant properties that can help remove that and bring that inflammation down. So like it's important to get sugar out of the body for a diabetic, and it's important to get toxins out of the body. But what these things are causing is the inflammation. So if you have the ability to bring that inflammation down, then that's half the battle. And then, of course, avoid toxins, quit sucking on overcooked meat, and don't bring your shoes in the house, and don't lay next to them when you're sleeping. That'll really help to reduce that toxic load. And if you continually detox, which most people, once they find a good way to detox, they can use it frequently to keep their levels at a reasonable volume, as they would say.
You can't avoid toxins all the time, so you want to continuously take in compounds that will scavenge those toxins.
Exactly. Just some reminders here. Some reminders.
So, Rollie, I think that's, if people can do those things that we're talking about today, watch some of the other podcasts, and really worth the while to do this, right? Because people might say, well, this sounds like a lot of work, it's a lot to know and a lot to do. Well, yes, it is, but that's the beauty of modern science. We know all these things because of all the studies, and so without that information, it's hard to take the right action. And it's well worth your while to invest in what we're talking about today, because we are beings that are living in a sea of bacteria and mold and viruses.
Sounds gross, but it's true.
And it's all around us and it's all in us. And so we have to have the knowledge about how to keep the balance so that our immune system can fight off the really bad stuff, and that we can live a really long, healthy life.
Right.
If you go about life and don't know about or don't pay attention to things you actually do know about the immune system, it's going to be a very different life than if you actually do. So that's my last encouragement.
And I agree with exactly what you're saying. And one of the things I just want to touch on, and it's the last thing I'm going to say about it, but we kind of took a lot of the work and the worry of what to get away by building things like our total health system, which provides your body with that foundational nutrition, the supplies that not only your immune system needs, but a majority of your body needs for just to perform at optimal levels. So yeah, it sounds intimidating, and it can be, but really when you look at the science and the technology that's come so far, when you look at holistic nutrition and supplementation, yeah, some people look at it and say, well, I'll just eat healthy. You'd have to eat a lot of food and really healthy foods in order to get what we're talking about. So that's one of the things. Don't fret. We kind of put it all together, and if you look at what I'm talking about, these total health systems, it's got an element of each thing we were talking about. So
actually, Rollie, everything that we talked about that we can help people address, right? The issues with energy, with stress. We have a lot of free videos about stress and podcasts about stress. Exercise becomes much easier when your body's energized.
Yeah, we talk about that. When you feel good, you'll do more.
Right. And we have a really great sleep aid for helping people with that sleep time. We can help people detoxify from the molds, etc. We can provide the amino acids, metabolic enzymes, probiotics, the lignans, the vitamin A, C, and E. We can do all that in a way that you can get all of that just in 2 minutes in the morning.
Right.
And so this might sound intimidating, but if you call us and talk to us, we can walk you through it and show you how to make it really simple.
We'd be happy to. And one of the best things that we do here is just try to share the knowledge that we've learned. it's your body, it's your health. So you got to be the one to make the decision on what you want to do. We're just here to give you some information and hopefully entertain you a little bit.
Maybe.
Anyway.
So anyway,
Sorry,
thank you
guys.
everyone for listening to and watching Live Forever Young Radio. And Rollie and I will see you on the next show.
You know it. Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.